One of the most relevant and most powerful Pokemon is returning to Legendary Raids. You do not want to miss out on collecting candies and Candy XL of this Pokemon, especially because of how meta relevant it is. This Pokemon is of course Terrakion. I'm going to be telling you how you can defeat this raid boss in this video. Let's get right into it. Okay, how's it going everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope you're having a good day and welcome to today's Pokemon GO video. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about a raid boss that is making a return to Pokemon GO, and it is actually one of the most meta-relevant Pokemon that's currently in the game. I'm of course talking about Terrakion, which is considered the absolute best fighting type Pokemon in the game that's not a Shadow or a Mega Evolution. Now, what's really important here is that you collect XL candies of this Pokemon so that you can max it out. It is going to be incredible for any raid boss that is weak against fighting types, and it also is going to be really handy for other forms of PvE content, most notably with gym battles as well as with Team Go Rocket battles. So real quick, let's go over how you could defeat Terrakion in 5-star raids. Terrakion is a rock and fighting type Pokemon, which means it's going to have a plethora of different weaknesses, which includes fairy, fighting, grass, ground, psychic, steel, and water. It's also going to have resistances to bug, dark, fire, normal, poison, and rock. The perfect IVs for Terrakion is going to be 2113, and if it's weather boosted, it's going to be 2641. This Pokemon is weather boosted by cloudy weather and partly cloudy weather. So if you want a boosted Terrakion, those are the weather conditions where you will want to raid this Pokemon. If you want to know how many trainers you need in order to securely defeat Terrakion, you will need about 3 to 5 trainers, at least level 35. But if you want to challenge yourself, you can potentially do this with just one other trainer. Just make sure both you and your partner are both level 40 at least, and all of your Pokemon are also at least level 35. You will probably want to utilize every single bonus at your arsenal as well. This includes the party bonus, weather boosts, friendship bonuses, etc. You will also want to make sure both of you have synergizing Mega Evolutions as well. If Terrakion is running with Stone Edge, for example, then you will want to run with a Water type setup. But if it's running with Fighting type attacks, then maybe you could go the Ground type route. Now let's talk about all of Terrakion's best counters. There were a lot of additions to the game since the last time Terrakion was a raid boss, but I would say that there are a few that are still going to be the absolute best counters. The number one counter against Terrakion is still going to be Shadow Mewtwo with Psystrike, and then I would say that Primal Kyogre with Origin Pulse is going to be the next best Pokemon. You could also consider bringing either Mega Garchomp or Mega Alakazam, but it's really all going to depend on what Pokemon other players in the raid party are going to bring. Now when it comes to the best counters that are not Shadow or Mega Evolutions, you should consider bringing regular Mewtwo's with Psystrike as well as Terrakion with Sacred Sword. Probably the best setup you can run with is having a Mega Alakazam and a bunch of Shadow Mewtwo and regular Mewtwo's. That's probably going to be the most efficient setup against Terrakion. Now, when it comes to budget counters, specifically Pokemon that are non-legendary or non-shadow, I would consider bringing regular Metagross with Steel type attacks, Swampert with Water type or Ground type attacks, and Gardevoir with either Psychic or Fairy type attacks. Every single one of the Pokemon that I listed is going to be really strong against Terrakion, but something to keep in mind is that Terrakion is going to be weak against a bunch of different types. So as long as you're bringing the absolute best Pokemon of any of these types, you're pretty much going to be okay. You could mix and match your team with a whole bunch of different Pokemon. That's kind of what's nice about Terrakion raids, in that this one raid boss is weak against so many types, so you can really go with a team that is incredibly diverse. But I would highly suggest you communicate with your other raid mates so that you could coordinate Mega Evolutions, because let's say your friend is bringing a whole bunch of water types, but you are not using Primal Kyogre, so all of those water Pokemon that your friend is bringing is not going to get boosted. So really, coordination is going to be key, and it's going to determine whether or not you can either 2-man this raid boss, or you're going to require a couple more trainers. Alright, so there you have it. This is actually a very easy and very straightforward raid boss. You will just want to make sure you bring the right counters. Fortunately, there's a lot of different weaknesses that Terrakion has, so you can mix and match your team depending on what Mega Evolution other players are bringing, and you're going to be good to go. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this is one of the most meta-relevant Pokemon in the game. What do I mean by that? Well, Terrakion is the absolute best non-mega and non-shadow fighting type in the game, and it's going to hold that title for a very long time. I think the only Pokemon that has the potential to beat it is going to be the absolute form of Caldea. Unfortunately, that Pokemon is not going to be making a debut anytime soon, and it's definitely going to be dependent on what moveset that Pokemon is going to have. But in the meantime, Terrakion is going to be king when it comes to fighting types, and even when it comes to rock types, it is a very solid option as well. Seriously, when it comes to PvE content, you will want yourself a really good Terrakion. I suggest doing a whole bunch of raids in order to get a 100% IV or something really close to it, and then getting enough candies and Candy XL so that you can max it out. It's basically going to make the entirety of Pokemon GO, aside from PvP, just complete easy mode. Like, there's going to be plenty of different Team Go Rocket battles that are going to be weak against Terrakion, and then when it comes to gym battles, it's going to completely sweep a bunch of common defenders, like Chanseys, Snorlaxes, and Blissies. I mean, yeah, it's going to be weak against Fairy type and Psychic type attacks, which both Chansey and Blissey have, but they do not deal enough damage to completely one-shot this Pokemon. So yeah, it is worth investing into because it's definitely going to have a lot of offensive fire that's going to destroy a lot of those common gym defenders. Now, it's not necessarily going to be good for PvP, but there's plenty of other Pokemon that do fill in those roles. But when it comes to Terrakion, it's going to be an essential Pokemon when it comes to PvE content. So do not miss out on this Pokemon while it is out in raid battles. It is definitely worth farming up, especially if you have a whole bunch of raid passes just lying around. Also keep in mind that Terrakion's shiny form is also available as well, and to be honest with you, it is probably the one shiny that I get asked for the most when it comes to lucky trades. So make sure you're doing a whole bunch of raids to stock up on that shiny. It's definitely going to be worthwhile if you have a stockpile of that Pokemon. Alright, and with that said, that's going to be it for this video. Now, I would love to know your thoughts regarding this legendary Pokemon down below. Is this a Pokemon that you have been using quite frequently within Pokemon GO, or is this a Pokemon that you've been ignoring? Definitely share why in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. If you ended up enjoying it and found it to be informative, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to all the patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then make sure you go and check out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way within Pokemon GO, like with remote raids, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. Also, if you want to support my channel without spending any money, you can do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula, and I'm on the following platforms right here. Alright, and that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.